Hi, Liz. Thank you for coming in today and for sharing your time with me. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. So today, before we get started, I just wanted to kind of get some details about yourself and see how you're doing in the present moment.
Perfect. Yeah, presently I'm a little fuzzy. It's first week of summer camp for my job, and it's been a little hectic. We had about 100 kids today, which was
Wow.
25 up from yesterday, and it's hard to get used to it. So I'm exhausted. I'm also packing for a trip right now, so I'm just kind of a little fuzzy.
So you've got a lot going on right now.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for reflecting on that. So next, I wanted to see kind of if you could describe some of your successes and your failures, and that could be either from your present, from somewhat recently, or if you wanted to, your childhood, or both.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that popped to mind was actually childhood, seventh grade. Um, I think it was really important, this award that I got, because my whole life I've really tried to please people and be kind and lead just a really moral life, just really kind. And I got the award for the whole seventh grade class for citizenship. And I remember just how much that meant to me, and it must still mean something to me because I still try um, and lead with kindness. Today, uh, I spoke to the kids. I do closing ceremony with them, and I spoke to them about mindfulness and being caring and kind to their friends. So yeah, that award popped out. I don't know why that came back, but yeah, that must be something that has really stuck with me.
Mhm.
Other successes, um, I think, my parents, they didn't graduate high school or anything. So I was, first generation to go on to college and now get my master's. So that feels like a success. Um, so yeah, other successes. No other successes come to mind.
Mhm.
Failures. Um, what sorts of failures? Just any?
Yeah, I guess just general failures, like from anywhere from big to little. They can be as small as you can remember.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't know, like uh, more literally, it could be like failing a driver's test to get your license.
Okay, yeah. What if I failed? Um, I think sometimes I don't say things in the right tone.
Hmm.
I come off a little harsh. So I always think about that and I try to change the way I say things. I, I don't try to offend people, but I do see that as a failure and something that I work on.
Hmm.
Uh, Um, I try to work on that. So that is a failure that has kind of stuck with me, that I see as a failure at least.
Hmm.
Um, in college, I took a history course, and I should have never taken it because I'm not interested in history, and I failed an exam for the first time in my
Okay.
life. So I just remember feeling, I'm getting the feeling right now. It's really odd, like sick to my stomach because
Hmm.
that had never happened, and I didn't know what was next, or if I could finish the course. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing this with me. So for your failures, one was a little more, like was pretty creative, and one was more of a conventional sort of failure. But so to relay back to you, just so I can make sure we're on the same page, for your successes, it means a lot to you to, I suppose, to kind of please other people and to be kind.
Yeah, definitely. Um, to a fault, also, I think I try to please people, even if it's not good for me in the moment. So that's something I've, as an adult and recently, really try to focus on. Because for my whole life, I would make decisions based on how it would make my mom feel or my brothers, my older brother, and just if it was going to give, just anything was just centered around that.
So I think this segues pretty nicely into my next question. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I have 4 brothers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
And under those siblings, where do you fall?
I am second youngest.
Okay. Awesome. And so can you go back to around, it doesn't have to be exact, but around age 10, somewhere, in your late elementary, middle school years, and kind of describe how your relationship was with your siblings?
Yeah. So around age 10, so I have 3 older brothers, and 2 of them are twins. 2 are from my dad. The twins are from my dad, and my other brother is from my mom. And they're all the same age. So around that time is when contact with my dad stopped. So that contact with my twin brothers kind of stopped there too. I would see them here and there, but
Hmm.
I didn't really have a relationship with them. Um, so I guess my older brother that was on my mom's side, he was about 19. And he kind of stepped in and helped support me and my younger brother in those times. So he was kind of he was a guardian. He was my guardian, and he kind of guided me. Um, and that goes back to like wanting to please him because he was that person to me, and he gave me advice. He took me and my little brother on amazing trips, places, and we went boating, and he was just, I mean, honestly, it was awesome. Less of a brother, more of a father, but we
Okay.
still had that like friendship. Um, so it was a little bit, I don't know, less of a less of a brother. I would say he was father and a friend. We were like best friends, the 3 of us.
Hmm.
My little brother, he's about 8. Um, I mean, he was kind of crazy. He acted out a lot, which not having a father around makes sense. But he was really angry. I remember at one point he punched and kicked this huge hole into the wall. So I just remember him being angry, but he spent a lot of time with us and had fun, and he was a part of our little trio.
Hmm. Interesting. And so what was the dynamic between ages across your siblings, including yourself?
Oh no, I think you're frozen.
Oh, I can kind of hear you coming in and out.
Are
Can
you
you hear
there?
me?
Yep.
Okay.
I was like, oh no.
So my question was, can you explain the dynamic just in ages between all your siblings, including yourself? So if
Yeah,
you're age 10, I suppose. Yeah.
definitely. I'm age 10. My oldest brothers are 19, all
Okay.
3 of them. They're a month apart,
Interesting. Except the twins, obviously.
right? Except the twins. Yep.
Okay.
Um, and then my younger brother is 2 years younger, so he would have been 8 during this
Okay.
time.
Awesome. And so since then, it sounds like you were all pretty close knit, especially with your older siblings. How have your relationships changed since then?
Um, so for a while, it stayed tight. We still took trips.
Hmm.
Um, we kind of went through a bit of some, I wouldn't call it, I would call it tumultuous, whatever that word is.
Hmm.
Tumultuous.
Uh,
Um, So my oldest brother, that was like a guardian to me. He owns a company, and all of us at some point had worked for him, and he's just a really uh, rough individual to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, in the past year, that has put a big strain on my and my little brother's relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my younger brother and I are super close. He's my best friend, probably best man at my wedding.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And as for your parents, what did your parents believe was important in the family? So I guess values.
Yeah, values. Um, so when I was young or now or both?
I suppose both,
Yeah.
especially
Well, my
when you're
dad,
young.
yeah. From what I remember, when my dad was in my life when I was young, before age 10, it was this idea of unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he never said that. He never said, like, I love you unconditionally. But I felt that from him, and I felt the importance of showing love to your family and always putting them first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for my mom, uh, and that's still really important for my dad now, because I've rekindled a relationship with him when I was 17, and now we're really close. And it's all about family and putting
Mm-hmm.
family first. Um, my mom, I want to say love as well, but she's the type to say unconditional love and to put emphasis on it,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't really feel unconditional when you're saying I love you. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as a single mom, she put a lot of importance on money. So I heard a lot around money when I was growing up, and you can't have this at dinner, but you have to have water. You have to have this because it costs money, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't go shopping with your friends. You can't do that. So that's what kind of comes to mind. And it's not her fault. She was a single parent. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I do remember that
Okay.
vividly.
Yeah. And I wanted to relay back to kind of your relationships with your siblings now. Because both of your parents kind of talked about this unconditional type of love, do you think that has helped yours and your little brother's relationship with your older brother?
Yeah, I never thought about that, but the emphasis on like this love and family first and stick together, I think that's what makes it so hard. I mean, I guess, yeah, I've never thought about it, but because it's hard to pull away um, because of how close we were.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's probably for the best to stay distant. Um, but that idea of sticking together, family first, unconditional love is there. And I do still love him unconditionally. Um, but the relationship was just became uh, toxic.
Mm-hmm. And was that something that, was it just at work, or is it also into your more personal relationship?
Uh, I wouldn't say personal, not personal at all. And that's what also makes it tough,
Mm-hmm.
um, because and what I've heard from other people is, well, if he's like that at work, that is him personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I've struggled with this idea that, I used to be like, no, that's work Chris. This is like brother Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to separate them, but it's when someone said to me, well, if he's willing to do that to you in a work setting, that's his personality. It kind of clicked, and so I'm unable to separate it as much anymore.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. You there?
Hmm.
Okay. Were you finishing a thought, or were you finished?
I think I finished a thought.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask you to share a few of your earliest recollections. So I guess you can just rattle off, a couple that come to mind first.
Okay. Which age would you like?
I suppose just as early as possible. So probably, I would imagine somewhere around kindergarten age, preschool age, something like that. It's later,
So
that's okay.
yeah, the first one that came to mind, because I think because we were talking about my brother,
Hmm.
I was maybe preschool, kindergarten. Couldn't have been older than that because I was at a house where we moved when I was 5 to another house.
Hmm.
I had this Barbie limo, and it was huge. It was bright pink, and the back of it, the like tail end of the limo, was a hot tub.
Hmm.
And um, my oldest brother, who would have been, if I was like 4 or 5, he was maybe 12 or 13 or 14.
Hmm.
He filled up the back of the hot tub with water, and we put my Barbies in it, and he just pushed it around, and I like crawled next to him. And I just remember thinking it was the coolest thing that, like, because my mom wouldn't let me put water in it, but he went and did it. And
Hmm.
then we rode around together, and just I followed him. He pushed it so it wouldn't spill, and I just like crawled next to him and watched. Um, so that's a good memory.
Hmm. Are there any other memories that you can remember from that early on?
Um, well, I was a dancer in like preschool and kindergarten.
Hmm.
Um, and I can remember, actually, I have two memories from this. Um, I was on the stage and we were doing our performance, and we had these like little bow ties on our like tap shoes, and mine fell off in the front of the stage. So usually they tell you just to leave it. Don't worry, don't run and get it. And 5 years old, didn't listen. I ran and got it, and I could hear everybody laughing at me.
Hmm.
And in that moment, I was so scared and so embarrassed. And um, my face was probably as red as it is right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then another one from that, I did pageants when I was little.
Hmm.
And I can remember I had to be 4 or 5 because I never was allowed to do one after that.
Hmm.
Um, my grandma wouldn't allow me because that was around the time when John Bonet um, was kidnapped. So I did one pageant and that was it. But I remember hopping, they had you hop from these circles. And I just remember hopping on the circles. And my mom was up there like guiding me
Hmm.
through the little placemats.
Nice. Thanks for sharing those with me. Do you think that um, that all these memories are significant to you? Do you think there's a reason why they were the first ones that came to mind?
Um, I think so. Um, yeah, I mean, that memory with my brother was like a reminder of our relationship and who he was to me and the relationship I hope to have with him again
Hmm.
at some point. Because he's such a big part of my life, or was, and it's hard to not have that anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and then, yeah, the story about being embarrassed, that's just me. I don't like speaking. I don't like being on stage. I'm easily embarrassed,
Hmm.
very shy. I have a lot of stage fright. So I think that, yeah, that's my personality to a T. Um, and the other one, I don't know why I remembered that one.
Hmm. And then I suppose the last question I have for you is just kind of the role that it played in your life that your your older brothers played such like I suppose kind of role model role model roles for you, um, and how you think that affected you.
Um, I think it had a great effect on me. Going back to your question about successes and failures,
Hmm.
I think part of the reason I went on to college, going on to my master's program now, is because I had my older brother guiding me and encouraging me, and as a role model. I watched him go to college. I watched him, buy a house at 18, buy a boat, have these cool cars. He was so successful, and I wanted to be that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so we are about out of time for today, but I wanted to see if there's anything pressing that you had before we depart.
I don't think so.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to thank you for your time today, and I will see you next week.
Okay, thank you.
All right.